Hi there, and welcome to the post-match reaction for the pre-season friendly. That's the only one that's on home soil against Manchester United, where Rangers have been defeated 2-0. Been to a few games against Manchester United in the past. I think the last one I was at was in the Champions League, way back in 2011. That was with fellow podder Craig, and got to see them last year against the B team. This is an entirely different game altogether. Rangers starting up with a fairly strong lineup, couple of new signings in there, a couple of the boys that we like to see, Hefty, who we'll definitely come on to in the podcast, Connor Barron as well. The first thing I'd like to start off by saying, very, very strange atmosphere in here today. I know they tried to segregate it, but a lot of the fans were mixed, and a lot of young kids here, which I suppose what pre-season's all about. These guys getting to go and see their heroes, but was an odd atmosphere, and I'm not a big fan of the United Rangers half and half scarf. What I will say though is that I think I am glad that Rangers are not coming here. I think we put out on the socials that there was a delay in kick-off by 15 minutes. Still not had that exactly confirmed, but people coming in, speaking to us after the match and all that stuff are saying it was a shambles. The ticketing there was still queues back up, and I think if Rangers were playing here, it would be a bit of a logistical nightmare. Listen, the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to split it up into two parts. I'm going to try and talk about the positives. I know that's difficult to do in a pre-season friendly where you've been defeated. And then I'm going to go on to talk about the negatives of the game, and you can let me know in the comments if I've missed anything out. Let me know what you think about what I've got to say on this. The positives, we'll start on the midfield. I felt that the midfield were pretty decent today for Rangers in that first half and in that a bit of the second half as well, especially maybe the first 50 minutes of the second half. We've got two guys in there. I mentioned it on the socials as well, Diomande and Connor Barron. I really think there's a special relationship developing between those two. Diomande especially, a guy, every time that Clement talks about him, he's waxing lyrical about him. I was laughing at the interview that they did midweek, where Clement came out and said that hands down Diomande was the best player on the pitch. Against Ajax, you don't often hear managers coming out and singling that praise. I think there perhaps is a new role for Diomande this season. I think he has been told that there's younger players coming into that midfield. Talk about Connor Barron, who we will chat about in about 2 minutes. But you could see it, he was, I don't want to say he's like the on-field captain, but that is certainly the most vocal, the most I've seen him moving, the most I've seen him pointing his arms about. He was getting frustrated that things not happening. He really seems to be the driving force, and I think will be the player that the team will be built round next year. I know that might upset Kieran, given that he's always banging on about Todd Cantwell being the man that Rangers should build the squad around, but for me it has to be Mohamed Diomande. Talk about Connor Barron as well. I thought that was another decent game. Maybe the first Man United goal that Amad Diallo, formerly of Rangers, scored, it possibly could have been done a wee bit better, but just for his age, his composure, his touch, he's no nonsense. I really like the fact that he goes in to win the ball back as well, and for me it was really encouraging to see, especially after we lost that goal, he was the one that started the instigation. All the players, pulling people up, saying it has to be better, and again, for someone so young to be doing that, I was quite impressed. But the tempo of his play, I think, will be really key for us going forward in the new season as well. Again, this might be a bit of an unpopular opinion, but I can only be truthful and honest in these pods when I do them, and that is I felt that Scott Wright had a pretty good game today. Is he the answer to Rangers' problems? Absolutely not, but there was some good first touches, there was some good runs into the box, but we all know how Scott Wright plays. It's almost like he always has too much time. It's just that end product isn't there, and yes, he must be a manager's dream coming in here, because that's 3 managers he's effectively survived in Van Bronckhorst, Gio Gerrard and Clement, so 4. He must be a right good trainer, but just on that pitch is just not something that I'm overly keen on. It was great to see Cortez back in the starting lineup today. Okay, he didn't have the best of games, but came through 45 minutes unscathed, had a couple of good runs. Again, maybe the final pass into the box somewhat lacking, but could be improved for next year or next season, and hopefully the more minutes he gets in his legs, the more fitness he gets, the more pre-season games he gets, the better he'll become, because Oscar Cortez is a player that I'm really, really, really looking forward to seeing next season. And my last positive point of the podcast will be Dujon Sterling. It was a lot that was talked about in the media room just there. Alec Ray and Leon King both coming out to speak to the media about that. Alec Ray obviously facing a couple of questions with regards to James Tavernier's future at the club. Obviously Coy didn't want to get into it as much, was saying the guy's still here, still part of part of the club, but we have or there has been a bid that has been put into the club, we know that much, which has been rejected. It'll be really interesting to see what happens here. I think people know my thoughts on James Tavernier, that I feel that he's been a great servant to the club, but his time here is done. He's just associated with too many negative moments, too many negative games with the club. So I think it's, once you have that brushed hard on you, it's time to move on. And it'll be fascinating to see if we do see some movement on the James Tavernier story soon, or in the next few weeks or whatever. But big Dujon Sterling, last year I can remember people saying, oh, we know he's the best player in about 6 or 7 different other positions, but with regards to playing right back, is he still going to be the same guy playing for right back? But he was superb today. That's Jadon Sancho. Let's not forget that Jadon Sancho was in the Champions League for Borussia Dortmund. I know he's not been in and around the Man United team that much, or was out on loan last season, but he was fantastic quality of player to play against, and I thought Dujon Sterling held his own, and have no fears at him at right back. And Alex Ray even picked up on it in his post-match press conference. He singled Dujon Sterling out and said that he was really good going forward and really good at defending. So long may that continue, and if Tav does move on, I have no worries about the right back option there. We move on to the negatives, and this is a pretty big negative for me. It is up front. We are utterly lacking, especially in that first 60 minutes. With I know I've touched on Scott Wright having a good game, but he can't finish. Cyril Dessers as well. It was, I believe that the Man United TV said Cyril Dessers has had a bit of a strange game, but as Rangers supporters, I think that's what we've become accustomed to. It's just there was one opportunity that I felt we had maybe in the first half where he spun the goalkeeper, took a good first touch, but just it's too powder puff up front. We just need somebody a bit more direct, somebody that can hold the ball up. He's another one. Okay, he had fantastic numbers for us last year, a guy that's been linked with quite a few moves, been a number of clubs in Italy alleged to be interested in him, and if that's a deal that Rangers can make happen in terms of at least getting their money back for him, I'd be all over that. Danilo coming on in the second half had that one good chance, but again it was 9 changes of largely B team players. Don't get me wrong, there's some talent in there as well, but the chances, the play into the box, it just wasn't there, especially in that second half. He just didn't have enough ammunition. He didn't have enough balls given into the box. He was making the runs. It really good to see him sharp and fit back, but for me, when he's back to fitness, he has to be the one leading the line next year. Also quite excited hopefully to see Igamane coming in. Interestingly though, when I was watching the game, I thought this was an interesting point. Man United's new signing Euro, he's come over, obviously a big expense for him, but there's no messing about. He's straight into that team. I do wonder what the thinking is in the Rangers staff behind having him out for the acclimatisation for 12 weeks. It would be good just to see him straight into the squad, but they obviously feel that he still needs a bit extra behind the scenes. The other comment that I kept seeing a lot of in social media was about Hefty. Listen, it's his only second game for the club. I felt that, again, with that first goal, it was poor. It was between Hefty and Barron. But let's face it, he's not going to come up against people. That's going to be one of the best players that he's going to come up against the entire season there. So I don't think I'll be too harsh on him quite yet. But he's a player, we all know what he's been brought in for. He's a young player. He's been brought on as an acquisition, hopefully to sell on at a bigger fee in the future. Going forward, I was really encouraged by him watching the Ajax game. Similar here, there was a couple of moments that he had going forward where there was some good interchanges with play. There was a couple of good times where he linked up with Cortez quite nicely as well, so hopefully that's something that we can see developing in the future. And the last sort of couple of points here are the 2 goals we conceded. Soft, easy goals, very similar to the end of last season. There was a few lingering issues there. That's certainly something that needs resolved. We'll see how that progresses in the future. And the last thing to comment on perhaps is squad depth, and that it was very evident in the substitutions that we had to bring on. Again, lots of them players that are injured, lots of them players that are from the B team, so it's certainly something we need to do. But again, it was touched on in the post-match press conference here that we have to sell players before we bring players in. So let's hope over the next few days. It certainly looks like there's a few moves in the pipeline, and hopefully now the Euros are over and now that the transfers will be trickling down, hopefully that we will get into the rhythm of signing more players to improve the squad. But listen, there were a few interruptions here, so sorry about that. But thanks everybody for watching. We will be back on Wednesday. Take care, and we'll see you all soon.